The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Yes, and a very fine morning it is. A little cool here in Nashville, but we'll take it. Plenty of sunshine, 59 degrees. Fall has finally arrived. I'm Jay Harper sitting in for Chris Hand. Chris will return tomorrow. Now, normally we don't begin a show with an interview. However, I was excited to speak with our guest here this morning, and this was the time frame for his availability. Many of you perhaps know our first guest here this morning. He's an American politician, staunch conservative, retired military officer, lieutenant colonel. He's been a member of the Republican Party for many years. Allen West, he represented Florida's 22nd Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives from 2011 to 2013. He's been chairman of the Republican Party of Texas here a couple of years back, and I know this will endear him to many of our listeners, a proud graduate of the University of Tennessee, a Tennessee volunteer on the line here with us this morning. Lieutenant Colonel Allen West. Mr. West, thank you, sir, for your time. How are things in Texas today?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. And as a Tennessee volunteer graduate, I want to say congratulations to the Vanderbilt Commodores, anchored down for taking down number one team in the country, Alabama. Wasn't a great weekend for the Tennessee Vols, but we finally get to come home, and I think we'll recover and have a good game this week against Florida. But things are going well here in Texas. But I tell you, we've got a fight going on. And as you know, we have an open and porous border. And our big concern coming into this election cycle is making sure that these illegals that Kamala Harris has allowed to come into our country do not get to vote.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And I'm seeing, and again, it's hard to at times decipher the propaganda from what's really going on. But in your eyes, does Senator Ted Cruz, does he really have a battle going on for re-election there?
Well, the thing in Texas, as you see in many red states, and you see that in Tennessee as well, the major population centers are controlled by the left. And that's the case here in Dallas County, where I reside, Austin and Travis County. Austin looks more like San Francisco than anything else.
Right.
Houston, Harris County, San Antonio, Bexar County, and El Paso. And so what the left is really depending on is that they can drive out enough population there in these areas to get someone like a Colin Allred over the top. 6 years ago, Senator Cruz defeated O'Rourke by 2.3%, I believe, and so they think that they have that opportunity. But I don't think they're going to be able to do so. The polls right now have Donald Trump ahead in Texas, 11 to 12 percentage points, and I believe that Senator Ted Cruz will be able to, ride those coattails, and he'll be okay. But you got to fight all the way to the end. That's for certain.
Now, we had all heard about the voting rolls, if you will, being purged to some degree in Texas and finding, scores of illegals or folks that are not citizens, perhaps, that were registered to vote. Are you confident that that is under control?
Well, not really, because one of the things we have here in Texas, and I would challenge folks in Tennessee and wherever in the United States of America, illegals have been issued identification cards here, and the identification card they get here in Texas looks just like a Texas driver's license, except there's two little words at the top says limited term. And if we're not talking to our poll workers, poll watchers, election judges to be on the lookout for these and look and see if it does say limited term, because by Texas election law, if you have that limited term ID, you cannot vote. So we've got to make sure that we're attentive to that. And then also one of the things that we're concerned about here is something called a reasonable impediment declaration, where someone can come in and say that they don't have a photo ID, but they have a utility bill or something like that, and they're going to ask for a reasonable impairment declaration. And this somehow got into Texas law, and you're not able to challenge our poll watchers, poll workers, judges. They're not able to challenge someone if they ask for a reasonable impediment declaration. So it's those little nuanced things that we got to be on the lookout for.
Now, we are speaking with former Congressman Allen West. Now, Mr. West, you represented the 22nd Congressional District in the House in the state of Florida a few years back. That's the Palm Beach area, if I'm correct.
You're absolutely correct.
Generally speaking.
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale up to Palm Beach.
Now, they haven't been directly impacted by the hurricanes, but still, they have, of course, been impacted. Now, I'm guessing that you probably still have quite a bit of connections, relationships, what have you, with the state of Florida, even though now you reside in Texas. Governor DeSantis staunchly defending what they're up to there in Florida. I mean, good grief. If anybody knows how to prepare for these things, it's the state of Florida. And getting in a little snit with Kamala Harris. What do you make of all that?
Well, look, I don't think that Kamala Harris needs to be asked, telling or giving advice to Governor DeSantis about how to handle disasters. Look at what is happening up in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and northern Georgia, and look at the fact that you have a Department of Homeland Security Secretary, Alejandro Mayorkas, who comes out and says, well, FEMA has run out of money, and we can't do anything to, provide any relief or support to any further storms. Well, if they had not transferred some $1 billion from the FEMA relief fund to, guess who? Illegal immigrants. And guess what? It was Kamala Harris that allowed that to happen. Tens of millions of illegals coming into this country. So the priorities of this administration, this Biden-Harris administration, are not putting Americans first. And I think that without a doubt, Governor DeSantis will put Floridians first, and they'll be able to take care and do what is necessary.
Now, of course, what you just said has been repeated by a number of folks that should know the fact that funds have been reassigned or reallocated, if you will, to FEMA funds and whatnot. But the administration and the mainstream media out there insisting that's misinformation. In fact, Peter Ducey with Fox News and Corinne Jean-Pierre got into it yesterday over that very thing where, Ducey basically laid all that out and, Pierre got all bent out of shape and stormed out of the briefing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you go back to a great quote from George Orwell. He said, in a universe of deceit, telling the truth becomes a revolutionary act. And that's exactly what we see happening right now. It is true that they reallocated, almost billions of dollars from fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 from the FEMA Disaster Relief Fund over to support illegal immigrants. And then also, let's not forget, it was 2 weeks ago, we flew Vladimir Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, in an Air Force C-17 plane over to Philadelphia, where he participated in Democrat campaign events, and he left with a check for $8 billion. So when Kamala Harris says we're going to give these people in North Carolina $750, that is a slap in their face.
Now, you mentioned the Ukrainian fund, if you will, quite a hefty one there that Mr. Zelensky left back for his homeland. In terms of, yesterday, of course, as you know, the one-year anniversary of the Hamas attack on Israel.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the relationship between the U.S., namely Biden and Netanyahu? I mean, how do you see that relationship playing out? And do you really think, is America doing enough? Should they do more? I mean, do you have a take on that whole scenario? And I know it's very complicated.
Well, it's not really that complicated because when you go back to the Trump administration, Iran was virtually bankrupt. We had pulled out of the Iranian nuclear agreement. We had put our boot on their neck as far as, oil and energy sanctions. But what happens? The Biden-Harris administration comes in, much the same as we saw with the Obama administration, flying over, pallets of cash in an unmarked airplane in the middle of the night. We relieved them of those sanctions. So now Iran's coffers have been enriched. We have actually, this administration, increased trade with Iran. So now they're going back to exporting what? Terrorism. You didn't hear about Houthis, Hamas, and Hezbollah during the Trump administration. Now all of a sudden you do. You heard about the Abraham Peace Accords during the Trump administration. Now you have abject war. And so this weakness that we have seen in the Biden-Harris administration, the reasons why we have this conflict, the reason why we had Americans who were killed a year ago on October the 7th, and Americans still being held hostage by Hamas. And, again, what a slap in the face to the people in North Carolina when Kamala Harris says that we should send, millions of dollars, I think $158 million over to Lebanon, which is controlled by Hezbollah, which is another Islamic terrorist organization. But yet we want to give our folks, just a pittance of $750. The priorities of this administration is way off. And Kamala Harris, who said that my values haven't changed, she's in the bag with the Islamic jihadists. She's in the bag with illegal immigrants, and she has enabled a lot that we have seen happen, to include the debacle in Afghanistan.
Again, we are speaking with Alan West, former House of Representatives member from Florida, former chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. As we start to wrap things up here, Mr. West, you served honorably, lieutenant colonel, retired lieutenant colonel in the military, in the Army. You've been to Afghanistan. You were deployed overseas. What do you make of the morale in the U.S., in the military, in the armed forces, since the Biden-Harris administration has been in Washington?
Well, it's very simple. I mean, when you look at the all-volunteer force, first time that I can recall, I first raised my right hand to take the oath in 1982. We didn't meet recruiting and retention levels, and we have consistently not met them. That's because people don't want to be a part of a military where you have a commander-in-chief that looks at his watch during the ramp ceremony for 13 brave Americans coming home because of the debacle that he and Kamala Harris created. When you have a military that's more focused on gender-neutral submarines and DEI and CRT and, gender dysphoria and transgenderism and all of these things, Nobody wants to be a part of that. People want to be a part of the military that does one single thing. They know their mission. They're trained to accomplish their mission, and when they have to go, they fight and they win. During the Trump administration, what happened to Qasem Soleimani? We wiped him out. What happened to al-Baghdadi, leader of ISIS? We wiped him out. What do you see happening with this administration? Just look at all the hot spots around the world.
Boy, amen. Mr. West, we appreciate your time here. How can folks, if they wish to check you out on social media or any other outlet, how can folks contact you?
Sure. Well, I'm the executive director of the American Constitutional Rights Union, so you can go to theacru.org. I'm the chairman of the Dallas County Republican Party, so go to dcrp.org. And then also you can follow me on all the social media platforms. I have a Substack page. I have a podcast called Steadfast and Loyal, but you will never find me on TikTok because I do not support the Chinese Communist Party.
Okay. Well, Mr. West, it's been a treat. I have followed you on social media and just kind of followed your career over the years. It's been a real pleasure having you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Anchor down and go Vols.
Okay, very good.
All right.
All right. Again, we have just had the pleasure of chatting with former congressman. That would be Alan West out of Florida. And, yeah, he's oftentimes seen on the various news channels and whatnot, giving his conservative take on things, and very, very sharp gentleman. So, 20 minutes now past the hour of 9 o'clock. I'm Jay Harper, filling in for Chris Hand on The Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Up ahead here on Super Talk 99.7, the local park where police are seeing a sharp spike in crime. Also, we'll bring you the latest on Hurricane Milton preparations for folks in Florida. Those stories coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you there, Joan Jones. Again, here in about 4 or 5 minutes or so, we'll hear those updates. I'm Jay Harper, once again filling in for Chris Hand. We've got Mason Fleming back behind the console. Mason, how are you, bud?
Doing all right, Jay. Glad to be in. I'm glad to see you again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
been a little
it's cool.
bit.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Not to get in your personal business, but you went to a wedding, right?
Yeah, I was at a wedding this weekend. It was a lot of fun. Got to see my cousin get married, finally. No,
Well,
I'm
that's
just kidding.
nice. Now, are they local, or did you have to travel a bit?
All the way down to Georgia.
Ah,
Down to Georgia, near Atlanta, which was fun.
okay.
Nice
So-
little weekend, get out of town for a little bit.
All right.
No
well,
complaints.
Did you see any signs of damage from the from
Not-
Helene in the
not in
area where you were?
Yeah, not in the area where I was. Honestly, the biggest issue that I had was a massive accident that put me an extra 2 hours behind on my road trip down.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be a 3-hour drive and it ended up turning into a 5.5.
Yes, I've been there, done that. Any of us that have traveled 24 to try to get down to Atlanta, you never know
my
what you're
goodness.
in for.
Yeah. It was 4 lanes packed up for just standstill for no apparent reason. We got past everything. Didn't see a single thing that could have been holding us up. It might have been just a stray branch that nobody wanted to pass. I don't know because I didn't see anything.
Right. Well, I had mentioned earlier that my lovely bride is out of town. She actually got in the car this morning at about 5:30, headed toward Charlotte.
Ooh, that's a drive.
Yeah, to babysit our grandson for our son and his wife. But normally she would take I-40
Yeah.
and go, that way. But that ain't nobody going that way for quite some time now.
Yeah. It's a little backed up, a little closed off.
Yeah, so she's
Yeah, not
having
my
to she's having to do the Atlanta thing and then kind of loop around. And,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, go back up to Charlotte
Oh, man.
that way.
That adds some time for sure.
Yeah, and she's one of those people that hates to drive. I mean,
Oh,
absolutely hates it. Every time she comes home from like a shopping trip or something, it's like, everybody's trying to kill me.
Nobody knows how to drive around here.
So anyway, I get a lot concerned about her. I don't like her driving by herself, but she's a grown woman, can handle herself, but still.
But hey, you care.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
Yeah. So go ahead and lock in your radio or the apps that you got us on, or whether it be Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, what have you. We're going to get into some other interesting things here next half hour coming up. We'll talk about, I had mentioned it with the nice interview with Alan West here last half hour, how Governor Ron DeSantis from Florida and Kamala Harris kind of getting into a little snit. We'll investigate that on the other side of the news with Joan Jones.
Well, good morning. It's now 9:30 here on Super Talk 99.7. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We are at 61 degrees and fair skies right now, headed up to 76 later on. Well, the bodies of 5 of the 6 missing Impact Plastics employees have now been recovered in Unicoi County. One of those employees, Lydia Verdugo, was recovered yesterday. Knox News is reporting Verdugo, along with at least 10 others, took refuge aboard a flatbed semi-truck that was later struck by debris in the flood, and it knocked the evacuees into the water. Everybody aboard was washed away, although some were later rescued by a Tennessee National Guard helicopter. Metro Nashville police are seeing an uptick in crime at Percy Priest Park, where they currently are investigating the shooting death of a 15-year-old girl Sunday. Neighbors tell Channel 4 the spike in crime is not news to them.
Well, you get used to hearing about it every day, yeah. I mean, who likes it? Nobody likes it. I rarely see any security.
crime data showing there have been 140 crimes reported within a mile of that park in the last 4 months. Monster Hurricane Milton churning toward Florida's Gulf Coast. Forecast to hit this week and then travel across the state, doing damage on the East Coast as well. ABC News chief meteorologist Ginger Z is in Tampa, where up to 15 feet of storm surge is expected.
10 to 15 feet of surge would more than double the record that we had just 2 weeks ago. It would be like stacking 2 or 3 of me up of ocean water and pushing it right on land really fast.
The state is still cleaning up from Hurricane Helene late last month. That's the latest news. Weather still to come. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Yeah, the sounds of chainsaws. I'm sure that is a sound being heard in many places throughout the southeastern United States. Jay Harper here, 9:38. This is the Chris Hand Show. Here in about, 30 minutes or so, we'll be talking with Tim Miller. Tim's an old friend of mine, but he is also the chief meteorologist at the University of Florida. And he's also responsible for a number of weather radio stations throughout the state of Florida. As you can imagine, Tim is a busy guy. And we're going to chat with Tim to just get some insight on what the heck's been going on, get his take on the intensity of these storms. And I also want to ask him what his thoughts are on this whole climate change scenario that many claim is bringing the intensity of these storms to what we're seeing. So that'll be happening again a little after 10 o'clock this morning. Well, again, as we alluded to during the interview with Congressman Alan West in the first segment, in the first half hour, Vice President Kamala Harris, she's been taking swipes at Governor Ron DeSantis in Florida. This came out yesterday. Yeah, she's in a snit because Ron's not taking her phone calls. Well, lady, do you think that Ron might be a little busy right now? Yeah, Kamala was quoted as saying people are in desperate need of support right now, and playing political games at this moment in these crisis situations is just utterly irresponsible, and it is selfish. She claimed it's all about political gamesmanship instead of doing the job that you took an oath to do, which is to put people first. Well, as you can imagine, Governor DeSantis not taking that criticism lightly, and he responded on the Sean Hannity show last night.
And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No. And here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process.
Exactly. You know, as you heard there, the governor saying, I've never heard a peep out of this woman with all these other storms that we've had during my administration here. You know, we just had the information about Hurricane Milton, and we'll continue to hear about that as it's bearing down on the west coast of Florida and the Tampa area. And, you know, again, Governor DeSantis got some other things on his mind rather than taking some just politically based phone call from a woman he's never heard from in other crises.
I've had storms under both President Trump and President Biden, and I've worked well with both of them. She's the first one who's trying to politicize the storm, and she's doing that just because of her campaign. She's trying to get some type of an edge. She knows she's doing poorly, and so she's playing these political games. I don't have time for political games.
There you go. Yeah, where she's accusing the governor of playing political games, the man is busy. And as I alluded to earlier, if anybody knows how to prepare for hurricanes, tropical storms, etc., for these drastic weather events, it's the state of Florida. Now, granted, they do have damage. You can only do so much. But in terms of getting people evacuated, getting people the heck out of there, sounding the alarm with plenty of time, the folks in Florida know what they're doing. Now, I will admit, and I experienced this in Charleston, South Carolina, you have so many new residents coming from other places that, you know, you really got to impress upon them the danger of these storms. You know, a lot of folks are new to these things, they're either one way or the other, I have found. Either they're terrified, even with a somewhat mild tropical depression, a tropical storm that may be bearing down on a location. You know, they freak out and panic over that, which, you know, you still need to be aware. Either they freak out or, it's nothing. Big rainstorm. We're inland. We're, X number of feet above sea level. No problem. So you've really got to impress upon new residents that, look, these storms may not look all that dangerous as they approach the coastline, wherever coastline you may be on, whether it be Gulf Coast, Atlantic, what have you. But particularly in the Gulf of Mexico, and I grew up on the Gulf Coast. Born in South Texas, I remember as a little kid running from Hurricane Beulah. I think that was like 1967, 68, something like that. Hurricane Carla hit the Texas coast. I was a little bitty kid. I remember we evacuated from those things. I remember when we got home after Hurricane Carla in Victoria, Texas, where I was born. Our home was fine, but the screen door was on top of the house. So that was the damage for that. But in any event, these storms, particularly in the Gulf with that warm, moist water, that moist water, moist air. Yeah, most water is pretty moist. With that moist air and the warm water, those storms can ramp up and intensify in a heartbeat. They're approaching the coast. They don't look like they're maybe that big a deal. Every storm is dangerous, but you may say, it's a Category 1, it's Category 2. But that sucker will ramp up to a Category 3 and 4 in a heartbeat, and there you are. You ain't getting out. So you have to be so aware of these things. But again, impressing upon new residents and that Tampa, St. Pete area, it's a big retirement area. Heck, the whole state of Florida is a big retirement area. So I'm guessing, however, now that you've got people that have experienced Hurricane Helene, maybe they may be new residents and they went through that and they're like, hey, we ain't playing around on this one. Helene was horrific and Milton looks worse. So I'm guessing that even if they are new residents, they're not going to mess around. And, we're already seeing reports of traffic jams and whatnot, and it's frustrating. I've sat in those traffic jams. There are times when I recall in Louisiana, I'm born in Texas, but I grew up in New Orleans, moved there when I was 10 years old. So we would have to pack up and run from the storms when I was growing up there. Of course, nothing to the extent of Katrina, thank goodness. But there were times when the traffic jams would get so bad on the interstate, especially there's like a 12-mile bridge. Folks from the New Orleans, South Louisiana area, they're aware of what I'm speaking of here. Over the water between New Orleans, headed toward Baton Rouge, and headed west on that thing toward Baton Rouge, it was gridlock. So oftentimes they would just go ahead and have the eastbound side headed toward New Orleans. They would reverse the traffic on that so that people could evacuate. So, if you wanted to go into New Orleans, tough. You ain't going to do it coming on I-10 because both sides of in their raised interstate. I mean, heck, they're over a frickin' swamp. Okay, so, but. And I saw the same thing in South Carolina, living in Charleston. They would do the same thing to where they would have both sides of the interstate going one direction, the evacuation direction. But again, this appears to be a very treacherous storm. But of course, while Governor DeSantis and all the other officials there in the state of Florida are trying to take care of their people, and you've got Kamala Harris wanting to call Ron, how can we help? It's like, lady, I haven't heard from you before, and I don't need your help now. Trying to just politicize this particular situation. But Governor DeSantis, he does admit that he's been communicating with President Biden and that Joe's been fine. He has no complaints. He claims that they're getting what they need from a federal perspective, not FEMA necessarily, but just the response that Governor DeSantis has requested from Joe Biden, he's been comfortable with. And of course, he said the same thing about Donald Trump when Trump was in office. So, hey, as Ron has said, it's all taken care of. Just don't try to score political points in the state of Florida over something that has really no bearing on you. As Governor DeSantis says, Kamala has no role in this. No role whatsoever.
And we've been laser focused on leveraging all resources available, including from the federal government. And I've been in touch with both FEMA and the president, as well as marshaling all our state agencies and working to support our local communities. And so for Kamala Harris to try to say that my sole focus on the people of Florida is somehow selfish is delusional. She has no role in this. In fact, she's been vice president for 3.5 years. I've dealt with a number of storms under this administration. She has never contributed anything to any of these efforts. And so what I think is selfish is her trying to blunder into this. No. And here's the thing. She has no role. No, she has no role in this process.
I tell you, this woman is such an empty pantsuit, and it just, and if she did call, which I'm sure she did, DeSantis, first of all, said that he didn't know she had called. He's been busy. His staffers said that, yeah, I think she called here, but yeah. But, again, she is such an empty suit, and I'm guessing she probably had a teleprompter or a script in front of her when she made the phone call. This is the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper filling in. It's 9:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Up ahead on Super Talk 99.7, stark words from the mayor of Tampa, Florida. And what's behind the dropping sales at one big American snack company? We've got those stories coming up at 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you there, Joan Jones. Yes, if you have yet to hear the stark comment/warning from the mayor of Tampa, Florida, you need to stand by. Yeah, she pretty well lays it out. So again, that's coming up with Jones Newscast here in a few minutes. Again, I'm Jay Harper in for Chris Hand here. This is the Chris Hand Show. Chris expected back tomorrow.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
He decides to slack off a little bit, stay in bed.
You know, in the wake of these types of tragedies, hurricanes, earthquakes, just natural disasters, there's always those morons, those knuckleheads with no morals whatsoever that look to, either try to scam you with something. You know, you've got to be aware out there of these fake fundraisers. You know, you just got to be real diligent. And then, of course, you've got folks that, they figure they're going to perhaps help themselves to some of your property while you're not there. Looting can be an issue at times. You know, we've seen it, unfortunately, with just about every natural disaster. But if you are inclined to do such things in, Greenville, South Carolina, the sheriff there, Hobart Lewis, he suggests that you think twice about that.
Who's listening that may be thinking of looting something here, just know that the business owners are staying in their stores. They're very well armed. They're protecting their property. Us, as well as the coroner's office, will be glad to come deal with that, because you certainly won't need EMS, because people are protecting what is theirs right now. They're about 500 calls behind. So I don't advise anybody, obviously, doing that.
Well, again, that's the sheriff of Greenville, South Carolina. I lived in South Carolina for a number of years, and, those folks don't mess around when it comes to protecting their property. And I know many in Tennessee and, all across the country. I mean, it's not just a southern thing. When it comes to protecting your property, your family, yeah, all bets are off, right? I know that's the case in my house. First and foremost, don't go messing with my family or my cat. And don't mess with my property either. It's 10 o'clock. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning. It's now 10 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Fair skies 61. What a gorgeous day we have. We've got the full forecast coming up. Well, as Hurricane Milton presses closer to Florida, ABC meteorologist Ginger Z says the storm's surge is the biggest concern where she is in Tampa.
10 to 15 feet of surge around here. That is more than doubling what we saw just 2 weeks ago, which was a record. You could have homes wash away, cars wash away in that type of surge.
In Tampa, Mayor Jane Castor has a message for those who choose to ride it out in their homes.
I can tell you right now that they may have done that in others. There's never been one like this. And this, Helene was a wake-up call. This is literally catastrophic. And I can say without any dramatization whatsoever, if you choose to stay in one of those evacuation areas, you're going to die.
Milton was downgraded to a Cat 4 overnight, but it is expected to strengthen and grow larger before landfall around 11 o'clock tomorrow night. Well, you won't find U.S. Senator Marsha Blackburn in Washington this week. She'll be at several pop-up locations hearing from residents in need of help after Hurricane Helene. Until noon today, she'll be at the Johnson County Courthouse and then at Carter County Courthouse this afternoon. She'll be in several different locations each day this week. Blackburn says Tennesseans will get help applying for assistance and getting replacement IDs that even allow them to apply. Hezbollah's acting leader is alive and continues taunting Israel. More on that with Tom Rivers.
Hezbollah's acting leader predicts even more Israelis will be displaced as the militant group extends its rocket fire deeper into the country. In a defiant televised statement, Naim Qassem said Hezbollah's capacities are still intact despite weeks of heavy airstrikes, and that it's replaced senior commanders who have been killed. Tom Rivers, ABC News at the Foreign Desk.
So maybe the Make America Healthy Again movement is catching on. A snack maker admits that its sales have been falling.
PepsiCo, maker of Quaker Oats, Doritos, Gatorade, 7-Up, and of course Pepsi, says American consumers have been cutting back on drinks and snacks over the past few months, leading to flat revenue for the company in the third quarter. After years of price increases, it seems that people just didn't have a taste for premium brand chips, soda, and soft drinks recently. To combat that, PepsiCo says it'll be lowering the price of some of its products in the coming months.
That's ABC's Sherry Preston. Stocks are higher today, not by much, though. The Dow Jones Industrials are up 38 points, but the NASDAQ is on the rise by 229. S&P 500 index, that's up by 44. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Yes, it is the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper filling in today, and fear not. I know a lot of folks on the text line and stuff are like, "Where's Chris?" He'll be back tomorrow, so fear not. But again, I'm Jay Harper, happy to be sitting in. Well, our next guest is he's a busy guy. And Tim Miller is our next guest. Tim and I go back a ways. He and I have been buddies for a while when we crossed paths in South Carolina a number of years ago. But Tim, currently the chief meteorologist at the University of Florida, And he also oversees Florida Public Radio, their emergency network. Got like 15 radio stations all across Florida, and he handles that very same thing for South Carolina, too. Tim, my man, how are you?
Let me tell you, Jay, if anybody wants to hear stories about Jay, please email me.
Yeah,
my friend, you are a blessing. It's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, man, same here. Boy, it's been a while since, we've kept in touch, but it's been a while since we chatted. But, man, I know that, gosh, you have got to be just, I so appreciate you giving us a little bit of time, because I know time is at a premium for you right now. What in the world is going on with the intensity of these storms here? First Helene, now Milton. Looks like it is going to be, well, it is a monster, that it may even, it was Cat 5 there for a while. It's now down to 4, but expected to intensify again. What do you make of this? Is it just a cyclical thing with, it's the Gulf, that warm water there? What do you make of the intensity of these storms?
Yeah, I tell you, the Gulf acts sort of like a hot tub. I mean, it really has nowhere to go. The water is, right. It's like the Gulf of Mexico is like a big cul-de-sac. If you don't have any relatives, or going to a Pacific house, I mean, that water just sits there, and it just bakes under a late spring, summer sun. And at times, I mean, we could have 90-degree water temperature, which is fabulous to swim in and be a part of. But for hurricanes and tropical systems, that is the juice needed. So I'll give you an analogy. If a hurricane was an athlete, that warm Gulf water is the protein needed for it to get the muscle strength to become, a tremendous weightlifter. And that's exactly what this storm has done. It's tapped a tremendous amount of warm water that wasn't previously tapped. And we had wind speeds of up to 180 miles per hour. Jay, there are many things that affect a hurricane other than just, the warm water, but it's that warm water that's needed for any storm, regardless of whether it's in the Atlantic, Gulf, or Pacific, for it to gain strength.
Well, again, you being in the Carolinas for a number of years and in Florida, you've seen your share of these kinds of storms, but I'm seeing that you are witnessing what I believe the second lowest barometric pressure on record in the Gulf of Mexico with this particular storm. How many storms have you seen that have even come close to what we've seen with Helene and now with Milton?
Well, I've not seen anything of this magnitude of strength, low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico like Milton. I don't ever recall a storm at 180 miles per hour wind speeds. It is down now as of 11 o'clock from the National Hurricane Center, 11 o'clock Eastern, 10 o'clock Central. Winds are at 150 miles per hour. It's moving east-northeast at about 9. 150, 180, it's a 30-mile-per-hour drop. When you're talking like that, it really doesn't matter. And one of the things, Jay, I think a lot of people get caught up in are the categories. Remember that the only thing that separates a Category 4 from a 5 is 1 mile per hour wind speed.
Right.
So we got to remember, it's the wind that's certainly the issue. But the real big issue with hurricanes, believe it or not, is not the wind. It's not the rain. It is storm surge. And that is the number one killer with hurricanes. And what's about ready to enter into Tampa Bay will be a storm surge that they've not seen in 100 years with the last storm. And we can just know the growth. That was 100 years ago. The growth of the Tampa Bay area has exponentially over the years. People have moved to that area, rightfully so. Hey, it's a great place to live, it's nice and warm, but they've not seen a storm like this ever.
Yeah, I was talking about that earlier. New residents that maybe just don't take all that seriously, these storms. But I think Helene convinced any newcomers that these things are nothing to mess around with.
Oh, absolutely. And that's also part of the problem. See, I get it. And it's the whole, we've been through this storm before and we've had that storm and everything was fine. And they said it was going to be the worst ever and it never turns out to be. So we're just going to hunker down. When it comes to tropical systems, it's, they have a mind of their own. And there are so many things that can move and direct and cause a storm to quickly intensify or quickly lose strength. It's totally different from if you're up from the Midwest and move to Florida. Totally different weather patterns. Case in point, I mean, those that live in Nashville, tell me that you've not seen a change in your weather over the last 10 years.
Absolutely. You know, when I first...
You have seen more tornadoes?
Absolutely. When I first moved here, 1985, it never snowed here. Now we'll get, below zero temperatures, and we'll get, half a dozen snowstorms every year. And you're right about the tornadic activity. You're absolutely correct. It has definitely changed here.
Yeah, there's been a massive change. Yes, snow. Yeah, that's another one. I mean, big snowstorms in Nashville. Are you kidding? Yep, that's exactly what's happening. And the tornadic storms through parts of Nashville are just. I mean, it's just amazing. And that's been over the last 10 years. And there's reasons for that. And we can certainly touch upon that. But that's the issue. I mean, with this particular storm, this is a storm of magnitude of which we've never seen hit such a populated area. Helene landed in what they call the Big Bend area of Florida. And, there's no good place for, a hurricane to land, where it affects people. But if you're going to have a storm of decent size hit Florida, that's the best place to do it. It's called the Nature Coast. It's very swampy, so you can't really build along the coast. So that was the most unpopulated area for a storm to form. Now we have a storm that is the worst place in Florida, I think, even more so than Miami, because of the bay, the Tampa Bay area, where you've got this bay or the area where all this water is going to be pushed into the bay, and it's going to have nowhere to go but up and over the land. That is the worst case scenario. And so we've gone from the best case scenario with Helene to the worst case scenario with Milton.
We are speaking with Tim Miller. He is chief meteorologist at the University of Florida and an old pal of mine from our days in the Carolinas, in South Carolina. Tim, another thing about having to evacuate from storms such as this, and really depending on where you are in Florida, I mean, it's not, going inland, getting away from its wrath is no easy task. You got to go quite a ways to really get out of the way of these things.
You really do. If there was a storm, that was headed towards Galveston and Houston, the Houston area could, I don't want to say easily could evacuate because that's a huge city, but you have many ways to go away from Houston, right? You can go up to Dallas, up to Austin. You can get away and continue to keep on going. Here in Florida, there's only one way to go, and that's north.
Yeah.
So now if you're evacuating the Tampa Bay area, and you also have the potential, I think, for this storm to be a major problem for the Orlando area, which has seen tremendous growth, everybody's headed north. May I suggest, if you have friends and relatives around the Fort Myers area, and places such as Tampa Bay, you might want to, believe it or not, head to Miami.
Yeah, go that way. Yeah.
Right. Go southeast. Who in the world would ever think about that, right? But because Miami's not going to get the brunt of this, and that would be an area that I think if you can't, because up north, I-75, I-95 will just be jammed.
I-4, Interstate 4.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, you nailed it. The I-4 corridor, that's the interstate that runs between Orlando and Tampa to I-95, I-95 to basically 75 through Tampa. That's going to be packed as well. So there is, you're right, the log jam of traffic will be tremendous.
Again, we're speaking with Tim Miller. He's the chief meteorologist for the University of Florida. And, of course, we are so grateful for him giving us some time here in what is undoubtedly a busy time for him. Now, Tim, you can, give us your insight on this or not, but, talk of climate change affecting these sorts of storms. What's your take on that? I mean, do you have one?
Yeah, you and I are friends, and I'll share this with you. A lot of people have asked me that, and I've done interviews.
I'm sure I'm not the first.
Well, on a lot of stations, and I try to run away from that
I know,
because meteorology and climatology. A meteorologist is different from a climatologist, for sure. But one of the things we talk about the climate of the Earth and climate change. What we don't realize is that climate change has been happening on this planet for millions of years. I mean, it is. There is proof of that. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. And this is, and I believe we're going through that now. There's absolutely no doubt that we're going through a change of climate. We talked about, Nashville itself, the fact that, y'all get snowstorms and tornado activity that y'all never saw that type of stuff before. And now we're seeing these, hurricanes and droughts in areas that we normally wouldn't get, droughts and flooding. So indeed, we have these, we do know that there is climate change. The issue, then becomes invariably, what can we do to stop climate change? And this is just, if you want my personal opinion, I'm going to take my meteorology hat off here for just a minute and put on a realistic hat. There is absolutely nothing you can do to stop climate change. Man is, when I give you an example on this, there are things that we can do with, carbon, releases into the air. There's absolutely things that we can do, and we're taking steps to be able to do that. But as far as the Earth is concerned, this has been going on for millions of years, and we need to do everything we can. But can we stop climate change? No. There's nothing politically that we can do to stop it. There's no amount of money we can throw at something to stop it. This is going to happen. We're going to have to deal with it. Here's another thing too. Think about those coastal cities that have now grown to massive size: Miami, Tampa, Jacksonville. All these, we've all gone to around the coast. And then we have these storms that hit, and then we're mesmerized on why we have all of this, damage and destruction. Well, we've built along the coast,
exactly,
and we're taking a risk by doing that. I mean, it's beautiful, but that is indeed a risk.
And soil erosion. I mean, how many videos have we seen of homes in the Outer Banks of North Carolina falling into the ocean?
Right, and I'll tell you, and I mean, so we do know there's climate change. The event that Helene did for parts of Asheville and parts of North Carolina, which, by the way, is just absolutely horrific. There was a geological shift in the river with the power of water. This is why when we talk about the storm surge that's going to be happening in parts of Tampa Bay, where a 15-foot wall of water coming on shore with a storm, maybe 125, 130 mile per hour winds, you cannot ride that. And that's going to be a devastating effect. We saw that with time and time again, an 18-foot storm surge in the Big Bend area, but a 15-foot storm surge in Tampa Bay with the population is absolutely tremendous. And it's one that's, you can't survive this. The power of water is just something to see.
Well, Tim, buddy, I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're up to your eyeballs in dealing with this treacherous storm system headed toward the west coast of Florida. Tim Miller, the chief meteorologist for the University of Florida, and a good friend of mine. And buddy, I appreciate. I knew I was getting off in the weeds on that whole climate change thing, but I appreciate you humoring me there and broaching the subject for just a bit.
Jay, I love you. I appreciate you so much. Your friendship over the years have meant the world to me.
Yeah, and, same here, pal.
Let's keep prayers for not only our friends down here in Florida, but also our friends in Carolinas and also parts of Tennessee that have been really hit with Helene, and it's going to be a long time to clean up and get back to normal.
All right, amen. Godspeed, brother. We'll talk to you soon, and thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
All righty. Again, Tim Miller, chief meteorologist, University of Florida, just weighing in. I know that a lot of folks in this part of the state of Tennessee, we've all got perhaps family, friends that are being affected by all this. So just thought that perhaps we'd like to get an insight from a gentleman who's really, really in the thick of things. This is the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper sitting in 20 minutes past 10 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
Coming up at the news at 10:30, 2 more Impact Plastics employees' bodies have been recovered. We'll also bring you the latest on Hurricane Milton preps. Those stories coming up at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you there, Miss Jones. Always on top of the news. 25 minutes past 10 a.m. Jay Harper in for Chris Hand. And folks, don't panic. Chris will be back tomorrow. I know I've seen some comments on the chat line. But fear not, Chris shall return. I believe he's on a well-deserved trip with his young family. And boy, he's got quite a brood. He's got a car full.
Absolutely. Probably lots of potty breaks.
Yeah.
Stopping at gas stations, hoping not to buy every snack and souvenir they stop to see.
Yeah, I tell you, man, if you stop at a Buc-ee's,
you're done.
You know,
you're done.
Yeah, you'll be there a while.
Yeah, we passed one on our way to Georgia, and it was very tempting. But I was like, I know I'm going to buy way too many expensive sandwiches and maybe another stuffed animal that I don't need.
I'm
gonna
right. Yeah, and boy, you got to have that sweatshirt hoodie. That,
exactly.
Has, the Bucky thing. About what's his name? Bucky. His name is Bucky.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I guess
that would make sense. Yeah, I was like, my favorite shirt that I've seen that my brother got is it looks like a concert tour shirt. It's got a big Buc-ee's logo that looks like almost like a 90s graphic. And then on the back, it has, instead of tour dates, it's got all their locations listed on the back. And I was like, that's pretty clever. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty slick.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure.
Well, next half hour, we will get into more of, Kamala Harris has kind of been on this, I won't say media tour. As a matter of fact, we've got the TV in here in the studio. It's on ABC right now. And Kamala, literally, at this moment, she is on The View. And, these women are absolutely giddy. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg, I swear she is, it is just, yeah, it's certainly not unexpected, but when she was introduced, Kamala Harris was introduced, the audience, which is about 99% women, it's a Birkenstock festival in there, but nonetheless, they all stand up in, rousing standing ovation. Again, that's all expected. But yeah, Kamala Harris out on this real wimpy media tour, if you will. She was with uber liberal Stephen Colbert on his show. I guess it was last night or the night before last. I'll have some of her word salad audio on that. And boy, real hardball questions from Stephen Colbert. But something a little surprising was what Bill Whitaker, the CBS correspondent, what he had to say with Kamala Harris. Now, Mr. Whitaker actually, to some degree, challenged her. Quite frankly, it was refreshing to see. And, of course, I think that she was a little surprised. She was a little taken aback by some of the challenges. I'm sure she thought, hey, I'm here on my pals, with all my pals here at CBS. I'll just kind of sit back and, give my standard rehearsed word salad responses to these, just nothing burger questions. But Bill Whitaker, he challenged her a bit. And she sat there just like, to some degree, just deer in the headlights. And it was kind of fun to watch. We'll have some of that audio for you next half hour. So you stay with us. This is the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper sitting in. It is 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It's 10:30 and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. We'll have a high today of 76 degrees. Some sunshine, too. The full forecast is coming up. Search teams have now recovered the bodies of 2 more employees of Impact Plastics in Unicoi County. One of them, Lydia Verrugo, who, along with other employees, climbed to the top of a tractor trailer to escape floodwaters. Survivors say debris from the flood knocked some of them into the rushing waters, though. Employee Johnny Peterson was also identified. He had worked for the company for 35 years. The death toll stands at 15 in Tennessee. A Nashville couple who had been posting stolen items on Facebook Marketplace has been arrested. Metro Police got a warrant and busted down the door of their home on Pinehurst Drive, where they found thousands of dollars worth of stolen construction equipment and stolen guns. Neither Hector Abanas Huerta nor Kay Powers were legally allowed to possess firearms. Metro Police say they have recovered the suspect vehicle from a hit-and-run crash that killed a Nashville 5th grader and left her mother in critical condition. It was found at a home along Radnor Street. They're looking for a man identified as Daneri Varela for questioning. And Hurricane Milton appears headed for Tampa with the possibility of a 15-foot storm surge. ABC's Ginger Z reports from Tampa.
Another major hurricane making landfall on the Gulf Coast of Florida. I'm here in Tampa, downtown. In lesser storms, we've seen this area flood. Helene, they had record 5 to 7 feet of surge and lots of damage all around. Now we're going to double that. So especially for St. Petersburg or Bradenton, Sarasota, down the line to Venice, even Fort Myers with 6 to 10 feet of surge.
Landfall is expected around 11 o'clock tomorrow night. That's the latest news. Weather still to come. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 89.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Welcome back to the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper in with you. Of course, Matt Murphy coming in at noon, and then it's The Drive with Brian Wilson at 3 o'clock this afternoon. 36 minutes past 10 a.m. At 11 o'clock this morning, we're expecting country music star Daryl Worley to join us in studio. Now, Daryl has had some big hits over the years, but Daryl also a staunch conservative, and we're going to get his thoughts on what it's like to be a conservative in the world of entertainment. Now, it's generally thought that in the world of country music, that many of those artists in their constituency are generally conservative, but still, it is entertainment. And a lot of folks that express their conservative views, well, they get quite a bit of backlash from that. So we'll explore that with country music star Daryl Worley, again expected to join us in studio here at 11 o'clock this morning on The Chris Hand Show. One thing, well, it's a big thing as well, that a lot of folks in North Carolina are asking is, where's Roy? That would be North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. Now, we've seen Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor. We've seen him making statements and leading the efforts not only for helping folks that were affected by Hurricane Helene, but also in the preparation for what's to come with Hurricane Milton. You heard Tim Miller, the meteorologist, there a moment ago, saying, and a great point, that while Helene, as he said, there's never a good place for a hurricane to land, but in any populated area, but the Big Bend area, it's not Tampa Bay in terms of population. So the forecast is for this monster storm, Hurricane Milton, to just kind of hone in on that Tampa Bay area, and that's heavily populated and quite built up there. Any of you that have visited that area, what is being referred to there. It's a heavily populated area, so things could certainly be not good for the citizenry there. But North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, people are saying, where's that dude? Hadn't seen him in the middle of all this. Who else is saying that? It would be the Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson, in North Carolina. Roy Cooper, the governor there, a Democrat. Mark Robinson, a Republican. And, he didn't mince words, calling out Governor Cooper. It's like, dude, where are you?
I'm standing here. I'm not looking very happy right now, and I'm not very happy. I have mixed emotions standing in this room. I'm standing in this room with a bunch of civilians who've had to pick up the mantle and do what our state is unwilling to do for some reason. And I'm not shy about saying it. I'm not shy about saying it. I know this camera's going. That's going out on Facebook Live, and I don't care. There's no way in hell the citizens of North Carolina should be paying $50,000 a day for fuel to go rescue their fellow citizens when they pay taxes, when they pay into the revenue of this state. We have a $33.1 billion budget in this state. It's supposed to be there to take care of the people. But unfortunately, and I'm going to get a little political here, we have a damn governor who's unwilling to do it. And he needs to get off his duff and be down here with us, helping us to get this done. And he's not doing it. When it started, he was in New York City somewhere fundraising. He was in New York City when this started. And he has been AWOL ever since.
Well, there you have it. And that, of course, from the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina, calling out the governor there, Roy Cooper. And again, maybe I've missed it. It's entirely possible, but I've not seen any statements or what have you from the North Carolina governor. Again, I'm Jay Harper filling in for Chris Hand. He shall return tomorrow. As mentioned earlier, I got this TV in here, and Kamala Harris appearing in another love fest on The View. I swear, I thought Whoopi Goldberg was going to just lick Kamala's face. I mean, they're just, it's almost to the point of being just really, really ridiculous. Kamala,
I was going to say, they really like to boost each other's egos on there, and it doesn't really seem to get anywhere like in a progressive conversation. It's just praise for everybody.
Yeah. Oh God, you're beautiful. Oh, I know. It's pathetic. You know, and I tell you, appearing on all these kinds of shows, which Kamala's doing now, she's, come out of the basement only to appear in all of these, in these friendly landscapes. You look at Donald Trump, I mean, that dude's gone into the fire, man, with the Black Journalists Association and other areas, appearing before union groups that are typically Democrat-friendly. Donald Trump, he hadn't been afraid to get out and meet with all different kinds of groups, all different kinds of people. And I would be willing to bet that he has probably changed a few minds at these events where maybe people just got a different perspective on Mr. Trump due to the fact that he appeared somewhere where typically you don't see Republicans go. How many votes really is Kamala Harris going to pick up going to all these Love Fest TV shows, Love Fest events, where they just fawn all over this woman, ask her no hardball questions? And again, she has all these rehearsed answers. She says the same darn thing everywhere she goes, and that's not unusual. I mean, politicians, they have their trite answers and their mantra, if you will. But at least with Donald Trump, you admittedly, you never really know what's going to come out of his mouth. You know where he stands on things, or at least you should by now. Where does Kamala Harris stand on stuff? I mean, can anybody really answer that question, really? Aside from, we're going to tax the rich. Yeah. That's the answer to everything. The Democratic playbook, right? Let's do the class warfare. That's what we do, right? The class warfare. Yeah. Make those rich SOBs pay their fair share. Here is Kamala on that 60 Minutes interview. And yep, same old mantra.
My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class, and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
When you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses.
Well, Kamala Harris, what she just spouted there about how teachers and nurses and what have you pay more in taxes than the quote-unquote rich, that's BS. The tax rate that she's referring to, as Rush Limbaugh used to say, that's BS. That's Barbara Streisand. Billionaires and other high-income earners, they don't pay lower tax rates than teachers, nurses, or firefighters. Now, that's according to analyses by both the U.S. Treasury Department and the Congressional Budget Office. Where she gets this stuff, I mean, again, it's just crap that gets spewed out there And people just lap it up. Now, Bill Whitaker was the correspondent for CBS that kind of challenged her there. And we've got more of that 60 Minutes interview coming up here in just a bit. But he still didn't fact check her on that statement about the rich not paying their fair share. The top 1% income bracket shoulders 46% of the nation's tax burden. Somebody really wants to talk to me. Anyway, go ahead and silence that. Yeah, 46% of the nation's tax burden at a current tax rate of 37%. And the average tax rate for teachers, nurses, firefighters, based on those occupations' median income, 22%, but it could be as low as 12% for married couples, heads of households. So again, it's just more of the class warfare BS, the Democratic playbook, tax the rich, blame those evil rich people. How many folks that are in those lower tax breaks don't pay a dime in taxes? They get it all back. So, again, blaming the rich. Yeah. Bill Whitaker, again, he was the interviewer of Kamala Harris, and he did kind of throw her some curveballs.
Is democracy best served by President Biden stepping down and basically handing you a nomination? You didn't have to go through a primary process. You didn't have to fight off other contenders.
No.
That's not really the way our system was intended to work.
Bingo.
President Biden made a decision that I think history is going to show is rare among leaders.
Yeah, to have your
which was
party run you off?
Country before self.
Yeah, that's rare.
And I am proud to have earned the support of the vast majority of delegates and to have been elected the Democratic nominee.
Elected.
I am proud to have received the endorsement of leaders around this country from every background and walk of life to fight in this election over the next month for our democracy.
But I think this truncated process is why people think or say they don't really know who you are.
Look, I've been in this race for 70 days.
Yeah, exactly. 70 days. And has she done one full-length, full-blown press conference in those 70 days? No, she does what she thinks are going to be these softball little media events, like she sat down there with Bill Whitaker from CBS. Bill Whitaker also challenging the vice president. Hey, that southern border you were going to fix.
Been covering the border for years. And so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to
answer the question.
Kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay?
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the numbers
under your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you
we
have
have
done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act to actually fix the problem.
It's Congress's fault. Well, Bill Whitaker was demanding that Kamala say, well, hey, all right, you claim you're cutting the illegal immigration by half, blah, 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 blah. Why didn't you do that three and a half years ago? We know why. It's a hot button election issue, and we've got an election in less than 30 days. That's why. 1051 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Got a crash blocking the right two lanes of 65 southbound off-ramp to go eastbound on 24. That is a 22-minute delay. Mass evacuation underway ahead of Hurricane Milton's arrival in Florida. This story and more at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you there, Ken Weaver.
You bet your brother, Jay.
Man, it is kind of weird being here and you in there when I'm usually in there and you're somewhere.
Sleeping.
I'm just glad to be surrounded by news legends right now. I'm just saying.
Yes. And it's so great that, young feller, you recognize that, you know?
Checks in the mail.
Thank you. I need that.
If I can find a stamp.
I'll take hand delivered. I won't say no.
Yeah. And, of course, those stamps get more expensive every day.
Oh, my goodness.
Jay Harper in on the Chris Ann Show. And, yesterday we had the pleasure of country music star John Barry joining us. Today we will hear in a couple of minutes. Well, heck, he's already here. Let's go ahead and say hello to Daryl Worley.
Hey.
Daryl, dude, it's so great to see you, man. Appreciate your time getting here and just chatting with us today.
Thank you. We're glad to be here. Man, y'all got the sound rocking in here.
Yeah,
sounds great.
All right, good. Well, that's a compliment from a man who has had headphones on his head for a number of years, right?
Till I got calluses. I got cauliflower ear, but it's not from MMA.
It's from big headphones.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah, well, those of us in this biz can certainly relate. Yeah, I'm sure you all know Daryl, of course, a number of chart-topping hits. Of course, that big hit of his 20-some-odd years ago with Have You Forgotten? And, Daryl, I mean, you've actually redone that, haven't you, to where the lyrics are not so much 9/11 focused in terms of the tragedy of the towers falling?
We did. We wrote a song basically with the same phrasing and same melody. The only changed one word in the title.
Yeah.
Changed it to Have We Forgotten. We thought it'd be a great offering for the 20th anniversary of that song, and man, it didn't even make a dent. It
Really?
didn't scratch the surface in any way. It didn't cause a ripple in the puddle or the pool. And we yanked it real quick and just said, let's not mess with our masterpiece. Let's let Have You Forgotten be the one. People, my opinion about that whole deal is that people don't want you messing with their drama and their conflict and their controversy. They got this, and that's all they really care about is getting on that social media and, beating each other up. That song was sort of a call to unity. And it just didn't scratch the surface, man.
Interesting. Well, we'll get to that after we get to Ken Weaver's newscast here. It is 1 minute past 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Again, repeating that traffic problem. 65 north, the southbound off-ramp to go eastbound on 24 downtown. You've got the right two lanes blocked by a crash. It's a 19-minute delay. Full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. We'll get you another update. A mass evacuation is underway ahead of Hurricane Milton's arrival in Florida later this week. Milton now a Cat 4 hurricane, winds of 155 miles per hour, hundreds of miles west of Tampa. Right now in our nation's capital, here's Karen Travers.
President Biden will no longer travel to Germany and Angola later this week as scheduled due to Hurricane Milton. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said in a statement that given the projected trajectory and strength of Milton, the president will stay in Washington to oversee preparations for and the response to the storm. He'll also continue to monitor the ongoing response to the impacts of Hurricane Helene across the southeast. The president was scheduled to leave for Berlin on Thursday and travel to Angola on Sunday.
Just 28 days to Election Day, and there are questions about how the people hit hard by Hurricane Helene are going to be able to vote.
The former president on Fox News addressing concerns about voting in the swing state of North Carolina in the aftermath of Hurricane Helene.
I can only say that I believe they're going to go out and vote if they have to crawl to a voting booth, and that's what's happening.
North Carolina election officials are now giving local officials the power to allow voters displaced by the storm to cast ballots outside their county, including at shelters. And they say FEMA trailers could serve as polling locations in hard-hit areas.
That's ABC's Lionel Moise. Israel says it has killed a senior Hezbollah commander in a strike on Beirut. The military saying it's expanding an incursion into southern Lebanon. 1.2 million people already displaced in the country. Meanwhile, Israel has yet to respond to Iran's missile attack.
Israel's defense minister heading to Washington for a quick one-day visit. General Yoav Gallant expected to discuss Israel's options for counterstrikes on Iran with Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and others. The U.S. urging Israel to avoid bombing Iranian nuclear sites and oil refineries, what could lead to a major regional war and spiking gas prices. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has vowed a stiff response after Iran fired nearly 200 ballistic missiles on Israel last week. Jordana Miller, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Investors keeping a close eye on earnings from a key maker of snacks and soft drinks, PepsiCo, maker of Quaker Oats, Doritos, Gatorade, 7-Up, and of course Pepsi, says American consumers have been cutting back on drinks and snacks over the past few months, leading to flat revenue for the company in the third quarter. After years of price increases, it seems people just don't have a taste for premium brand chips, soda, and soft drinks. So to combat that, PepsiCo says it's going to lower the cost of some of its products in the coming months. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections. No lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Welcome in. Yes, this is the Chris Hand Show. I'm Jay Harper. 7 minutes now past 11 a.m. Go ahead and after the chorus, bring it down for me. All righty. Singer-songwriter Daryl Worley is the fantastic voice that you hear in that classic song. And Daryl, happy that you are here to join us on this October 8th. Daryl, great to see you again. Thanks for being here.
You too, buddy. Thanks for having us in.
Well, absolutely. And, of course, that song having such an impact that, it was such a tragedy. But I think you did such a wonderful job of capturing so many emotions that Americans were feeling as a result of that particular tragedy. And I want to get into other things. I don't want to just, settle in on discussing that. But still, How did you bring the thoughts and emotions together to verbalize, for lack of a better term, the feelings that are expressed in that song?
Well, it was an effort that, and of course, I had Win Varble, my co-writer, was a huge part of this too. But when we came back from overseas in Afghanistan, from my very first time to go there to entertain the troops. Man, we were just overwhelmed by that experience. It was very surreal. And I came home, back home to a nation that had seemed very, what's the word? It was just like everyone had just put all that behind them so quickly, because we went over in 2002 and then wrote and released a song in 2003. So it literally just been a very short period of time since we'd been, come under that incredible attack. And we really had no idea that the song would ever we made jokes that day about, going and doing a little 2-track right down here on, I think, 16th. Had a buddy of ours had a little studio called Love Shack. It's still there, but it's different ownership now. We ran in there and did a little 2-track of it. And I remember Wynn saying, "Well, wait and see what old Brad thinks about this." And it was so funny because even him, when we played it and knocked it out real fast, it's just me and the guitar, just getting something that we could hold on to not lose the lyric or anything.
Yeah, a little demo.
He had people lined up, all day long to come in and do stuff. So he was like, yeah, that's cool. See you guys later. And so we made jokes about it going over to our respective publishing companies and sitting on the shelf and gathering dust with, another 500 or 600 of our songs. And then, I guess you could say we were led by God or had the foresight or made the mistake of playing it on the Opry, and it just went. Oh yeah, it blew up from that. Yeah. It was. I don't think there was any magic formula. I think that we wrote a song about our feelings at the time, and how it really looked and appeared to especially someone who was coming in from the outside. You would have said, this nation's people don't act like anything's ever happened.
It ever happened, yeah.
And a lot of the parade route, red, white, and blue, was taken down and put away, and I was just stunned by it when I got home. And I'm thinking, we got these men and women over in Afghanistan that just go. I mean, it's raging, and we're it's on to life and getting on down the road with it.
Well, I think people just instinctually, you don't want to think about the horrible, you just want to put it in the past. You don't want to think about that stuff anymore. But, the emotions, again, that you were able for people to relate to.
Sure, yeah.
I think it was ultimately a good release, if you will. You know what I mean?
Well, it gave
for the
people-
public.
Absolutely. And I think, and you may not feel this way, but I think that we're, especially during that time, and even more so now, we're kind of, the media and the government and all these people say, oh, don't dwell on that. Let's put that behind us. Let's, that's how it's, we're geared that way nowadays. And, in the past, people would say, we might want to keep that kind of, at least up here in sort of off to the side, but in the forefront of our minds, because this just happened recently and, could happen again. History tells us if we, forget or ignore the mistakes we've made, letting people slip up on us or whatever it might be, that we'll probably repeat that and go through it again.
Like letting terrorists cross the southern border unchecked.
I tell people every night when I do Have You Forgotten in our live shows, this is my new spiel. I mean, it's obviously a little bit about the song, just to say that this song was written to honor men and women who sacrificed for this nation. Yeah. Not just the military, but our first responders too, because we saw that on 9/11.
Right. I mean, we've lost more first responders due to health issues since the actual incident.
Continues on.
Yeah.
Just continues on. But my new spiel is, with that song, is, okay, not telling you what to do in November, but I would, if you're one of the people like myself that looks at what went down on 9/11 and says, we could never let that happen again. Well, we're poised to let it happen now in such a way. Imagine how difficult it was, even though we had chatter and we knew that it could be a potential problem, even when it happened in 9/11. Right now, with the borders having been thrown wide open for 3.5 years, and there's so many more of those dangerous people here in our country, some of which we have no idea where they even are right now.
Yeah.
Some we do know where they are, but those people didn't come here with good intentions. And I don't want to be the doomsayer, but the potential for that now is much greater than it was.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're right here on the home front.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
I think if you're looking for a reason to vote in a certain way, you might want to think about that, because for me, at least for me and my family, my concern is their safety first. We can get on down the road to do other things tomorrow if we have that part, taken care of. And right now, it's a scary thing.
I know. You just don't know. You just don't know.
Right.
We are speaking with country music star Daryl Worley here on the Chris Hand Show. Jay Harper with you, 16 minutes now past 11 in the morning. Now, Daryl, you and I kind of off air chatted a little bit. You first came to town a number of years ago, and, we chatted about how the industry's mindset, from whether liberal or conservative or what have you, you have seen, as someone who admits to being conservative, you have seen changes in the landscape here in Music City that you have found. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'll let you express it, but that you have found just shocking to some degree in how much the climate has changed since you arrived.
This was a genre that I think could, very, very easily hold their hands up in the air and say we're conservative for the most part, and that's not the cool thing these days. I mean, and it's funny. It was pretty much. You could feel things starting to change. Like a lot of people think that I'm a '90s artist because my music leans a little more toward traditional style of country music, but I was one of those guys that was trying to have traditional country songs and have hits with those songs in the 2000s. My first single came in 2000, and so by that time, you would have people in town that say, "Oh, it's still a conservative genre." It was not. It was already moving in an intense way toward a very liberal mindset as far as the music and the industry is concerned.
Do you think it's generational? Is that something to do with it?
You know, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I haven't studied on that a whole lot, and I probably should be able to answer that question. I think some of it is there definitely has been a huge influx of like the LA mindset to come and even do music things differently. So that quite possibly has some place in all of this. And I would say absolutely the generational thing. But even guys, and I won't call any names, but we talked about some people before we started the interview that are very outspoken about their liberal leanings, and there's a handful of guys that are pretty open talking about that, and there was a ton of the women. Who knows where exactly it all comes from? But I can tell you that it has changed drastically, and that it most certainly has an effect on your ability to go out and have success in this business if you're connected in a big way to the industry itself.
Yeah.
If you're an indie artist, which I've done for a huge part of the past 15, 20 years, you speak to your fan base in whatever way you want to, and they either come on board or they jump ship, and that's fine. But anyone who would tell you that the industry itself has not completely spun in a 180 and gone the other direction as far as the liberal leanings would be telling you an untruth, because it definitely has.
Wow. Interesting. Again, we're speaking with Daryl Worley, singer-songwriter, country music star, here on the Chris Hand Show. We will continue with Daryl, but we will take a quick break. This is Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Did you know you're overpaying for your health and wellness products?
With over 20 company-owned brands offering its members vitamins, supplements, wellness, and skincare products, you're able to save up to 70% off retail.
Members Nutrition can't change your life, but we can change the way you live.
All right, still got that crash north of downtown. That is backing up 65 and 24 there before you get to the East Loop downtown. That is about a 25-minute delay. The right two lanes are blocked. We've got the very latest on Hurricane Milton, and it looks like the Tennessee Department of Agriculture has lists its new rules regarding hemp. Some of the stuff you buy to get high may not be available after this year. Details at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
"24 minutes past 11 a.m. Jay Harper filling in for Chris Hand. Chris returns tomorrow. We are having a nice discussion with country music star Daryl Worley, who is known for a number of chart-topping hits, but no denying that his hit song "Have You Forgotten" has had quite the impact on this man's career. Savannah, Tennessee native. Daryl, again, man, great to have you here. We appreciate you coming in. And, you have made no bones about the fact that, as most Americans, you would hope, honor and revere our military, the active duty folks that are serving all over this planet. And you have had the honor and the privilege of performing for a lot of our troops overseas. What is that experience like for you?
Well, it's, performing for the military has definitely been one of the most incredible experiences of my career. And we still do it anytime we have a chance. But in the war zone, when it's active and you're in the places where, some of the stuff I could tell you about our experiences in the war zone, like we played a show in Camp Anaconda one time, and we had to leave the stage 4 different times to go in the bunkers because the mortars were coming into the compound. And, it gives you a little taste of what those people experience.
Makes it real, right?
Yes, 24/7 that for them, and then it gives you this feeling of responsibility to want to do whatever you can to honor them and to lift them up. They say, and this I took this straight from the people that are there fighting the battles, that our coming over, it takes their mind off of that craziness for a moment, and it also is like bringing them a piece of home.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was sort of became my mission for a whole lot of years. So the travels overseas into the war zone were definitely by far my most proud moments to go there and entertain those people. It's just a great group of people.
Yeah, and I'm sure that has to be really, really gratifying. I mean, do you still hear from folks that you have met along the way in terms of those experiences you just described?
Absolutely. I've got all kinds of friends around the world, that, and some of those guys are still active, and there's just been so much. I was standing beside a really nice, like I call it a trophy case or whatever, but it's just a big piece of furniture that my wife ordered and got from an old World War II family in Germany, an American family in Germany, but they shipped it over here, and I use it to put all kinds of different military stuff in. And I was standing beside that with a friend of mine just the other day, and we could have stood there beside that thing for hours because he was just looking at all these different pieces and asking me questions about all that. And we stood there and relived a lot of those journeys. And I'm just very, very blessed and fortunate to have had the opportunity to do that and it still be part of my music career.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Again, Daryl Worley is our guest, and we will continue to chat with Daryl. We've got a break for the news here in just a moment. The stuff that's been going on over in the Middle East, scary for the world. I think all of us can agree that, gosh, I hope we've already got troops over there.
Yes.
But you hope that it just, here in another year or so, you're over there performing for guys that are in the middle of another war.
Yeah, we've almost gone about 3 different times in the past let's say 7 or 8 years, a couple of those times the funding would be cut or whatever. But my opinion is, and it's the opinion of several other folks who have helped me put together, Journeys to the War Zone, whether we would be funded by the military itself or if it was from a private sector, a lot of folks in my group would say that's not why it got cut. You got cut because the circumstances in those regions were just so radical, and they said we're not taking any entertainment in there right now. So it's definitely changed a lot, and you'd look at the history that we have now with Afghanistan and Iraq, and a lot of people would say, I guess that's just the way it's going to be from now on. But we sure pray often that things could settle down and get back to some kind of normalcy in that region.
It is time to check out our latest newscast. Ken Weaver's got all the news that's fit to hear, and he's up next. It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 5 minutes. And right now, still got that 20-minute delay if you're trying to get to downtown Nashville from the north. 65 north southbound off-ramp to go eastbound 24. That has the right 2 lanes blocked by a crash. Monster Hurricane Milton turning towards Florida's Gulf Coast. Forecast to do damage on the state's east coast as well. Ginger Z's in Tampa were up to 15 feet of storm surge expected when Milton makes landfall this week.
It's one of the strongest in the Atlantic Basin on record. Pressure, wind, and you're going to see it today waver from Category 4, maybe up to 5 again, and then eventually before landfall, potentially as low as 3. But the category doesn't matter as much as the impact.
President Biden no longer traveling to Germany and Angola later this week as scheduled due to Hurricane Milton. A vow to keep fighting from the acting leader of Hezbollah in a speech today, also saying the group supports Lebanon's efforts to get a truce. But the deputy leader did not mention Hezbollah's year-long insistence it will only stop firing into Israel if there is a ceasefire in Gaza. We get details from ABC's Patrick Reevell in Beirut.
He did not explicitly say that Hezbollah was dropping that demand. Ultimately, he did also say that he expects that this war will end once Israel suffers significant losses. I think most importantly, the question is, does Israel want a ceasefire right now? It appears at the moment that it believes force is the only way to achieve its goals. And so I think right now most people think any ceasefire is very far away.
Right now in Nashville, new rules have been posted related to some of the products you can buy right now to get high. News 2 says the State Department of Agriculture released new rules that means a product's THC content would be determined by how much is in a product when it's burned instead of before it's burned. An attorney with Nashville-based hemp law group Alex Little told News 2 customers are going to see that some of the products they've been purchasing may not be available from the stores that they've been going to after these new rules go into effect December 26th. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mandis with Nashville's Morning News and Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I was speaking to Dr. Christopher Van Shank the other day at a station event. Now, he's a psychiatrist, and he was telling me about the mental health crisis here in America. And as you know, it's out of control. The COVID lockdowns were an absolute disaster. And Dr. Van Shank, again, he's a psychiatrist. And if you're one of those people, you feel like maybe you need to talk to somebody, I would recommend Dr. Christopher Van Shank. He can help you with addictions, depression, anxiety. He can also help kids with the same thing. He's been doing this for 15 years. He's been helping people, and he is here for you today. So if you want to check out his website is nolensvillepsychiatry.com. That's nolensvillepsychiatry.com. There's a whole list of issues that he can help you with. So check him out. If you feel like he can help you, give him a call. The number is below, and good luck.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in, and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice. "37 minutes past 11 a.m. Jay Harper in for Chris Hand on The Chris Hand Show. Chris will return tomorrow. We've been having a wonderful conversation with country music star Daryl Worley. Daryl's already spoke of, how the climate has changed here in good old Music City over the years as opposed to when he first arrived, where things had more, the conservatism was certainly welcomed more in the music community than it appears to be now. Now, again, don't really want to harp on that stuff, but, it's a reality. And, Daryl, I'm guessing that there are probably other artists, and again, I'm not asking you to name names, but there are other artists out there that are probably from your era, and I say that in terms of when your music first became popular in the 2000s,
that are probably that have your same leanings, that are probably experiencing the same kind of issue, if that's the correct word. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, back in the beginning and through at least part of the first 10 years of the 2000s, it wasn't like a radical thing where you felt it so intensely that you knew you had to. I'd say a couple of things that happened in my career. I was like, oh man, that was probably we were all like, oh, this is exciting. We might have another Have You Forgotten? And then all of a sudden you get shut down. We had a song called Keep the Change, and I won't go into great detail about where that song came from or what the time period was, but it was stirring up. And as a songwriter, my idea for what we should do in the music world is evoke as much emotion with our songs as we can, whether it's somebody that's mad or jumping up and down and shaking their fist, or if it's someone that's going, hell yeah, that's awesome. It's still what we're supposed to do. And that song, man, it was absolutely coming unglued, and they just censored the dog out of it. They just shut it down. Big corporate radio chains and what have you just called the personalities and said, if you play that song again, that's it, buddy. So we started to feel it in a big way, and I think most of my friends and colleagues and co-workers that kind of lean the same direction that I do, we all just took notes when these things would happen, and we said, okay. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not about a bunch of politics and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of a live and let live kind of a guy. I mean, I don't want somebody infringing on my rights, just like I'm sure they don't want me, and I don't want to. But I do believe that we have certain rights in this nation, and that we should not be censored, and that we should be allowed to speak our mind. And so, in that way, the new, with the advent of the internet and all that stuff, the new way of kind of going at this in an independent way is not necessarily a bad thing. But I just don't want all my music to be about politics and garbage like that. So you're always, every time you come out, they're like, oh, it's going to be a new Darryl Worley song. It's going to be bashing
and you feel like you're going to be alienating, a large swath of people if you, Do people view the song "Have You Forgotten"? Do they take that as a political statement? Is that been your experience?
It was so weird when we put that song out. I say that we didn't really put it out. We played it on the Grand Ole Opry one night at the Ryman Auditorium, and it just took on its own life, and it killed my single that was out at the time. It just 5 weeks to number one. It stayed on top of the charts for 7 weeks in a row. It was a big old song, and phenomenon for us, and we didn't even know what to do with it. But we had a handful of people at that time that kind of tried to turn that song into something that it wasn't. But outside of that, it was overwhelming support for that song, and even from the more liberal-leaning side. People got it and said, "Oh, it's sort of jingoistic kind of a thing," and rallying. But to me, it had a rallying effect. It had a unifying effect because even if you lean liberal, you still could feel that climate in our nation at the time of just almost like 2 or 3 times I've gone after that word and it just ain't in my brain. But just not caring. It's kind of.
I think some apathy had kind of had encroached.
Yes.
But Darryl, I know you are a charitable man, and you are involved in a number of charity events and whatnot. You've got a cancer treatment center that's, I know, near and dear to you in your hometown of Savannah, Tennessee. Can you tell us about that? And I know you've got a podcast that's kind of catching fire. And before we let you run out of here, I'd like you to talk about your center as well as that podcast.
Well, I guess to talk a little bit about the Cancer Treatment Center, it all came about because of the Darryl Worley Foundation. So that was kind of the first thing that we did that got me going down that path of, if you will, giving back. I mean, that was something that our parents instilled in us as young men. They didn't, go into specifics, but their thing was, a couple things. They're very spiritual people. My father was a minister. My mom was a youth leader. And, they would say to those who are very blessed in life, there's a great responsibility, and part of that is giving back. And the other terminology was, if you boys want your ears clipped, just you forget about where you came from.
Yeah.
Because don't ever forget where you come from. So that mentality was instilled in us at a young age. And so the Darryl Worley Foundation is just sort of an extension of who I am and what we do as far as trying to help people. And I believe I'm a devout Christian man. I try my best to live a good Christian life. I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. I think religion is what got our Savior killed, so I steer away from that. And but I think the new covenant is that we love one another as Jesus loved us, and that's the whole thing with this giving back thing. But cancer has been our arch nemesis. The Worley family has been devastated.
Yeah.
by it.
Is there any family that has
I
not
guess
been
not.
touched in one way or another? I mean, my own mom, she
Yes.
passed away from leukemia, grandparents. Yeah,
mom
it's
had-
touched everyone.
And I tell people all the time with this fundraising and philanthropy, and if you want to do well at that, you find a great cause. So we definitely do a work in cancer, and that's how we wound up having a cancer treatment center there in my hometown. And they said we'd never pay it off because it was a big chunk of money. It was a big project for a small town like that, but it took about 2 years, and that was gone. So
that's amazing.
Yeah,
All
we've
right.
done well with that. Yeah, we definitely have a podcast that has come online. We've been, kind of working hard at that over the past 6 to 8 months, and got several episodes in the can, and we're getting ready to release a new one. It's doing very well. I have Travis McLeese and Mike here with us today, shooting a little footage. You guys were kind enough to let us do that, so we have some B-roll. And I enjoy it. I never dreamed I'd be a podcast kind of guy, because I just really don't. When I heard about those things, I thought, boy, that's kind of bizarre. I don't even know what that is and how it would. But we have had a blast with ours, and I think we're keeping it real. Our fan base seems to really enjoy it, and it has a lot of stuff about faith and family. A lot of stuff about the music. We play live on there quite often, and we don't focus a lot on politics, because I get that everywhere else I go.
Right.
But we definitely do. I think people will have no doubt that it's a conservative.
Yeah,
based thing.
it still sounds like you're emphasizing positivity, and
Sure.
it's nice to have that brought into our radios, phones, whatever the heck
Yes.
we're using these days.
Sure.
So how can folks find that podcast?
It's all online. It's called Sounds Like Life with Darryl Worley. That's the title of one of my songs. And I have a co-host, Travis McLeese, that's on there with me. And, he's just been amazing at helping me figure some of this stuff out. And he kind of leads me down the path, if you will, and gets me all fired up to talk about stuff I probably shouldn't. But no, I'm kidding. We're having a good time on there, and we're having a lot of great guests. The music family's been good to me to come on and chat and talk about, our fun experiences and the great stories. And we were at the RNC this year and had an amazing time.
Wow. Yeah, I wish we'd had a little more time to chat about that. That had to be a rather unique experience, I'm guessing.
It was great. Yeah. It was really good. So,
well, Darryl, it looks like you're going to be headed up to New York here in a couple of days, and then it looks like you're on the road for a while. So, hitting the Riviera Theater in North Tonawanda, New York. You've got another gig in Memphis, so way up north, then back down south. You're in Homer, Louisiana, so you're all over the place. So you're still out there performing live?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
we're
great.
working a lot, man. As a matter of fact, last quarter was probably one of the best quarters we've had in 10 or 12 years. And you know what? I figured I'd be somewhere fishing by now, but let's do it.
Well, fantastic. Well, Daryl, it's been a treat to see you, and I appreciate you letting us know your thoughts, and God bless you. You know, you've given the world a fantastic song. You've given them a number of fantastic songs, but, you know, it's never a bad thing to at least, you know, Lee Greenwood's got God Bless the USA. You've got this wonderful song. That's not too bad of a musical legacy, is it?
My dad said, "Do you think you're going to be okay with being the have you forgotten guy?" I said, "Well, I could certainly be remembered for things worse than that."
Yeah. Well, again, we've been speaking with Daryl Worley. Thank you, Daryl. It's been great. We appreciate it. We will go ahead and take a break. This is the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, wrapping things up on the Chris Hand Show. Of course, Chris will be back tomorrow. Jay Harper here as we are 4 minutes away from the top of the hour. And I know everybody's excited that the man, Matt Murphy, Eminem, is up next.
Hello, Jay.
Howdy. Yeah,
Hello,
I mean, people here on the text thing are like, yay, Murphy's on the way, which is just a way of saying, yay, Harper's out of there.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, they do the same thing with me and Brian Wilson every afternoon. Yay, Brian's on the way.
Yeah, Brian's on the way.
Loudmouth's gone.
Right. So, man, what are you looking at getting into today?
So we're going to continue our series of follow-ups. I mean, I'm not going to and obviously none of us at Super Talk 99.7 WTN are letting this story go because our brethren over in East Tennessee are feeling the impacts. Obviously, yes. Milton's coming in. Into Florida, and we're just feeling the dramatic impact and the inefficiency of government with regard to Hurricane Helene, and we'll continue to do that. We'll get another update from Asheville, North Carolina, or just outside of Asheville in Fairview, North Carolina. We'll get an update from Georgia, which is not getting quite the attention that North Carolina or even Tennessee's getting. But there are many, many parts of North and East Georgia that are still without power, without water, that are not getting the resources that they need. So we're going to go to my hometown of Thompson, Georgia, in McDuffie County, and we're going to talk to the emergency coordinator over in McDuffie County at 1:05 this afternoon. So we'll continue that. And then Kamala Harris, I think we're now getting an understanding of why she's not doing a lot of interviews.
Exactly.
Because she has started doing a lot of interviews, which indicates to me that her internal polling indicates that she's down in a variety of...
Yeah, but she's doing these softball interviews with all these love fests. I mean, she was on The View this morning, and they were foaming at the mouth. They were so giddy. There's no contesting of anything.
I don't know, and I know you're on air, so you don't have a chance to kind of sample it in real time.
No,
she was asked a question. Is there anything you would have done differently over the last 4 years?
Yeah, I saw that on the captioning that she was asked that.
And you know what the answer was, Jay?
Nothing, right?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So
I just took a guess.
So for all of you that are currently suffering, for all of you that are living paycheck, well, we're going to go over all of this on the show today.
Yeah, for 3 hours. You've got plenty of time to get into it.
But it is an amazing answer to a pretty simple question. And I'm going to give praise to Bill Whitaker of CBS News in 60 Minutes.
I played some of his stuff today, and he's probably come closer to challenging her than anybody else has.
Listen, at least there are still some people in mainstream media that believe that journalism involves getting to the truth and getting answers. And I will give credit where due. Bill Whitaker, I thought, gave a master class in asking a question very politely
and following
letting them answer and then saying, yes, but the question was this. Letting them answer and then saying, yes, but the question was this. And not letting them off the hook and making them not answer the question on 3 occasions, which is a lot more telling than just the one. So, but they'll never answer the question, though. So we'll do a little bit of that today, too.
All right. Well, hey, it's the Matt Murphy Show. It's on the way. We are approaching high noon. Again, Chris Hand returning tomorrow. And we hope that...
Mason messing with you, isn't he?
Yeah, I know. He's in there, giving me obscene gestures. What's going on?
He gave you the old one. He gave you the old one finger. You gave him the one finger salute. I mean, it was the pointer finger.
Hey, now, don't say.
It was still the one finger.
I wouldn't blame him if he did.
No, Jay did a great job today. I was just saying we got 1 minute left, though.
Oh, okay. Well,
we got plenty of time.
I'm looking at this clock in here.
I know it's
out of whack, right?
It's out of whack.
No, I think Mason's out of whack.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm just saying we got
it's been fun. I do appreciate Chris letting me sit in here and run off half his listeners, but nonetheless, you'll get them back tomorrow, I'm sure. But Matt Murphy on the way now. This is Super Talk 99.7 WT.